Good evening. How is everybody? Everyone okay? Fantastic. So, the last lecture of the season, I was just saying to Darren, apologies for the last minute dash through the door. I will absolutely admit to you all, you're all friends, it's a safer environment. As I got back in from work and sat on the sofa at 5:30. And my mum just rang me at 6:30 by coincidence. I'd fallen asleep. So I've literally just got in the car and legged it down here. So I apologise for that. That is not a reflection of the quality of the speech we've got tonight. Or is it? Well, I'll let you know at the end of it. So look, it's the end of the season. Thank you all. I'll get up and say some words again. Thanks all for coming along. It's great to see you all. And I won't waffle on anymore. I'm just going to hand over to Darren. I think you might recognise him. He's come from the distance of over the road from the side of the museum tonight to give us an amazing lecture. So over to Darren. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Is the microphone working at the back? Yeah. It is. Good. Thank you. I can't get it off this. Thanks, Adam. Good evening. And first of all, obviously, I need to start with an apology. Tonight's speaker, I got into work actually Monday morning, opening emails. There was one from Laurie. Really sorry. I thought it was the 24th of June. I can't make it because I'm still in Germany, so mass panic. Tony himself had a bit of conversation about whether we ought to cancel. But all along, I've known I've had this little talk in my armoury. This is the one I go out when I go out to give talks to progress clubs, things like that, sort of an introduction to the museum. So I said to Tony I could run that one. Didn't really have time to pull in, try and get another speaker in. Yeah, so behind the scenes at the museum, so really I'm going to talk a little bit about policy type things and what we have to obey to out there in the big wide world, but also then just a very quick overview of some of the projects we've been doing over the years. There's at least two videos in it that I can think of. A little bit about my enjoyment of being in the museum, some of the things I've been to, done, things like that as well. So yeah, but again, also as well, I would say probably about, I don't know, 25% of this audience is some of my volunteers, maybe slightly less than that. And it's a tribute to the work that they've been doing for me over the 10 years that I've been the manager in the Conservation Centre. I've been with the museum for 19 years. Great, it didn't work just now. Just a very quick overview. I did serve for 26, and that's the main aircraft types. The VC-10, my first aeroplane, my last one, absolutely love it. Beautiful aeroplane. Sadly, it's not actually part of our accessioned collection. It's interpretation, so at some point they're going to allow people to get married and all that sort of stuff in an aeroplane. If anybody ever worked on Phantoms, you absolutely love them to bits because they're such a pig to work on. Absolutely. They were, if you understand the Seastores terminology, they were Seastores aeroplane. Basically, 1,000 flying hours and scrap. The RAF was servicing them, major servicing them about 6,000 hours. Yeah. So, you know, everything you had to try and take out was hidden away, locked in, blah, 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 stuff like that. It was a right pig, but because it was so difficult, it was really, you got to love it. I had a good time on the Hawk, which, if you've ever worked Hawk again, it's an airfix kit, it goes together really easy, it's easy aeroplane to work on. And then there's a couple of photos of Jags. I was working down at St Athan, a lot of my career, 26 years, 14 years, we're down in St Athan in South Wales, and that's where I learned my skills. I become in charge of the sort of RAF upgrade of the Jag fleet. That was the Jag 95, Jag 97. They realised that the Jags couldn't fly out in places like Bosnia without a serious upgrade. And I got involved in the mechanical side of that. And from that led me then, as you can see there, to a slightly different coloured Jag. Typical MOD Air Force. We need you to go out to Oman for 6 months to oversee their upgrade, so they could basically fly with the Allies. 22 months later, I actually came home. So there's typical Air Force for you. But as you can see, they're all kitted out. I did get a back seat with TH, doing about, I think we were 0.9, about 50 feet over the desert at one point, which absolutely jumped out of that into a BAC 111 aeroplane, which flew me up to Muscat and got a 777, British Airways 777 home. So I had 3 different aeroplanes in that one day. So the centre itself is named after this gent, Sir Michael Beetham. And again, Lancaster pilot, Second World War, 30 ops, so he did his full tour on ops. And when he was in sort of post, as Chief of Air Staff, he was involved with the Falklands War, very much had a big say in the Black Buck that sort of side of it and things like that. Tornado coming into service. What we very much rely on all the services nowadays is you had the foresight to see that we were never going to keep the numbers in the Air Force, we couldn't afford and things like that. So the build up of the reserve forces that we so highly rely on these days. So as you can see on their longest time is the Marshal of the Royal Air Force. Not all Chief of Air Staff to get to the top rank. He was one of the few that did. Sadly passed away about 9 years ago. Age was about 92. So really what the talk's going to be about is about a little bit about what we do, what we've done over the years, as I was saying, place to safeguard our military aviation history, so nothing real to do with the civil side. And we're an award-winning Centre of Excellence, so a few things I'll cover. So my role, and that's the purpose there, to tell the story of the RAF through its people and the collection, all the lovely objects we've got, and that's not just the aeroplanes. If you've been around the museum site in the last year or so, you'll see how much we've changed the top two hangars. Guy Gibson's original VC is in there. There's a replica next to it as well, but you know his VC is in there. There's uniforms and there's all sorts of radios, things like that. There's lots of different bits and pieces for people to see. We have this amazing collection. We are the only national museum in the Midlands itself, actually, not just the West Midlands. And that means we're the owner, not the owners, we're the carers of these objects. And what we're looking at doing is to care for the large 3D objects, and then anything associated with them, so it can be small instruments and things like that. But my remit is to preserve the collection for future generations. So there's two things that we don't do in the museum. We don't fly, and we don't ground run engines, anything like that. We used to run a couple of vehicles down in London, but that's all stopped now. And that's really just taking the risk factor away and allowing us then to preserve all these beautiful objects we've got here for future generations. So the overseers, people we have to look up to, and this is sort of getting the legal side away, and then we get into a bit more fun about the people after that. National Audit Office, yes, we do get audited. They come around, they'll ask for a printout of 100 objects. It could be any of the sites, could even be some of the loan sites, and we have to show them that the object is still there and in still good condition. Tick in the box type exercise. But again, when you have as many objects as we've got, 60,000, no, not the stock control is not always as good as it could be. Arts Council England, yes, we have to have licensing through them as well. And our funding actually comes from the next line down, the Ministry of Defence through the RAF. Quite easy really for the three services. Ministry of Defence get a lot of money, they divide it by three, hand it over to the three services. All the other national museums, so the Natural History Museum, Science Museums, all those sort of ones, they all have to battle for money against the Art Council. So we've got that step, we don't have to do that step. So we're very fortunate that that's where our funding comes from. Home Office, we have to deal with them and keep up with regulations. Typically for me, what I'm thinking of with Home Office is Section 5 firearms. You see there's a lot of guns and things like that. Section 5 covers blades as well. Harrier GR3 we have down in Hangar 1, there's a couple of SNED pods, rocket pods on the side, they are the Section 5 because they have the capability to launch a rocket to a missile. So yeah, we're having to satisfy them that we're keeping within the legislation. Obviously health and safety, I run an engineering establishment, but again, probably the biggest thing with that, with the objects we work with, asbestos. That's certainly changed over the years and it's really cramped down and tightened up now. We find asbestos, walk away. Specialists come in, test it, specialist contractors come in and do the work. Encapsulation, most of our objects, if you walk around the Lincoln, you might see a load of asbestos in the bomb bay, all encapsulated, totally safe, and that's basically what happens nowadays. The Environment Agency, straight away then, what I'm thinking of with them is radiation. We have a little bit of thorium, but the majority of our sources are radium-226, and that's the glow-in-the-dark instruments that are in the cockpits and things like that. So again, I'm sort of working with them. The Environment Agency, who give us, they're the ones that give us our radiation licenses. They come about every 5 years to visit me, make sure I'm compliant. UK HSA, that used to be Public Health England. They also come out about every year, and we sort of pay them to make sure that all our boxes are being ticked with the HSE and the Environment Agency, things like that. So that's sort of the legal side, who we work, how we get our funding from, and who we're sort of having to bow down to and apply all the laws. I would presume the majority of you in here have been into the building at some point over the years. We're just up around the back of the site. I would really wish, my volunteers will know that, we really wish the floor looked like that at the moment. It's an absolute ground with aeroplanes. And that's a bit of the overflow, what that lovely display up there, but we are looking at trying to loan some of that. The mezzanine, we have a mezzanine training centre, which is other departments now within the museum, development flight, RAF stories, blah, blah, blah. But we never had that when I first joined the museum. All over the years we were saying, we've got apprentices, we need to have a training centre. No. We have apprentices, we need a training centre. No. Show in a minute this slide, 2010 we won top apprenticeship in the UK. Guess what? You can have a training centre. Yes, and that's typically how it works, but it's been there, but it's going to be used for other things now going forward. So, what do we do? Conservation. You're going to recognise, I don't think I'll get any of you, Jim. I didn't want to put any black and white photos in the Well, I'd have to skip you, Jim, I'd be happy. So the words I've got up there, yeah, we have meanings for all of them within the museum world, and we could probably have a good chat for an hour on the meaning of each one and the differences. Again, I'll probably use a couple of those buzzwords at times during some of the things I'm going to show you. Bespoke lifting, jacking, transportation, yes. JU82, come up from our London site, up to Cosford. Germans wouldn't have lifted it like that, but we have to. If I think just on public display, both sites, London and here, got about 180 aeroplanes. If I'd have had all the unique ground equipment to service them, lift them, jack them up and things like that, I would need another building the size of this building just to store it in. So we get given an odd couple of jacks, an odd couple of trestles, lots of strops and lifting beams, and we have to have a good look at the aeroplanes and do a safe lift. And of course, this is what we're all about here. We're supporting the museum, their needs, and that's why it said the magic ferries at the beginning. Our chief exec said to me one day, she said, "You really are like the magic ferries. We want a JU88 on display." It happens. You know, we go home at night, next day we come in and there's a JU88 sat where we want it. And so it was her that used that term, which I thought was quite a nice little term. So, obviously, especially there's a large one there, Liberator B24, which is in our bottom hangar. Got 3 up here, just happened to be in one of the hottest summers, we had to move them into here. You can't put wings on cranes and things like that in buildings like this. Possibly get away with it here, it's a little bit higher roof, but down on our bottom hangar, certainly not. So what we've done ourselves, and they're quite small on there, but they are massive. We made these roller skates, go jacks, whatever you want to call them. We jack the airplane up, put it on, jack it up, and you might just see a little wire there. So what we're doing, if you've ever used a turf winch, just literally pumping them around. And that's how you can get large objects like that into funny corners and things like that. And that's exactly what happened up here with all these large ones up here and out there. I have to cover pet hates. Bob in here tonight? I haven't seen him yet. Yeah, is he? So, yeah, one of my teams obviously have to look after the outdoor aeroplanes, and this is sort of my pet hate. I'll admit that to camera as well, Tony. I said to you I might ask you to cut a few bits out. The museum are fully aware of that. You know, you put an aeroplane outside, you're losing a battle. All the ones here inside, we're fine, we're happy, quite in control of their condition. But the minute you're sticking them out there, you are on a ticking time bomb. And then this is the the Britannia over far away. Probably before I took over, so maybe about 12 years ago. We had scaffolding which cost us about 23k to put up. We spent days and months and years repairing all these panels, all this damage. I could probably go over there and take all the same stuff off and do the repair again. That's the problem when you're putting them outside. Yes, we do wash them, but that big glowy thing and that wintry weather you get just absolutely rots them. There does seem to be a little bit of a common theme that I've noticed. You notice in here it doesn't look like it's that well primed. Some of the older British airplanes like the Britannia, that sort of era, they weren't that well looked after inside, like on the priming side. Go and have a look at something like the Hercules, and it's absolutely baked on inside. So I'm hoping long term we won't see too much of this too soon on something like the Hercules. VC10, I'm still sort of monitoring that, but I've heard of some issues with some external ones around the country as well already. So I'm trying to get hold of some more gen. But cowling there, we have cowling catch there. We've had to remanufacture them, bespoke make them in-house, just so we can put cowlings back on. So a couple of other little bits of corrosion. It sometimes does happen inside, but that's really going back with the history of the airplane. Valiant above our head there, you can see got a bit of dissimilar metal there, got a steel going through an aluminium. So steel swells just a little bit and put some cracking in, so replacement of brackets, things like that. little bit of early oxidation there on the Wellington structure. Again, no real problem there. That will just sort of come off with a decent bit of Scotch-Brite and then a recoating of something else. But so just sometimes, yeah, it's a bit slow with the pointer, so that's why I'm pausing every now and then. Yeah, so you can see as well we're getting some stress cracking. Ferry Battle, you know, that's the engine bearer there cracking, so we are testing things like that when we take them off. Bit of NDT and what type work, you know. On that you've got a ton of Merlin and propeller sat at the end, so a huge moment going through that. There's the crack there, just in case you can't see it, the bracing we've had to put on. Just sort of interesting, we weren't sure how this was happening. We have a couple of theories. One, is it a little bit of moisture ingress getting inside and then moisture freezing in the winter and causing it? We're not sure. But we had a failure on the Arrow 707 towing eye, and just at that time I was talking with Nottingham University. The metallurgist came in, took a couple of scrapings and took them away and provided us with a report. And basically when you were making these castings at the good old many years ago, the companies were getting their aluminiums and all their trace elements that would go in, put them in the pot, warm them up, hey, oi presto, provide a casting. What they said to us, with time is happening, all these trace elements are falling out with other ones and you've got microscopic layers forming, sort of the metal itself is moving around. And that's where the weakness comes from. Hope that was a one-off, because obviously how many aeroplanes I've got with 3 undercarriages on 70, 80 years old, that potentially could happen to. And so fingers crossed, we haven't had a lot of problems, but you know, we certainly are keeping an eye out for it, and it was very interesting reading. So I think probably the best building in the world to talk about suspension of aeroplanes. My team prepare the aeroplanes. We get them ready, we do all the services and NDT checks, things like that. Then we work with a specialist company who, again, we work with them about how we're going to do the suspension, put them up there, get them up there and service them and things like that. And they do a lot of stuff like the theatre world, the Olympics are going on, they'll be out in France this year, anywhere like that. They're doing anything suspension, anything off the world, their feet off the floor, and they're top company in the world. New airplanes, things like Tornado, absolutely brilliant. You can lift them because they actually come with lifting eyes and things like that. Just in case one piles in on a runway, you can get a crane out, get this frame on, lift her off, and get her out of the way. Easy peasy. Spitfires and all those sort of things, no, nothing like that. So we have to start looking at it where the structure is. CFG always have to do a weight. I put that, sort of weight on there. Weight CFG for the company so they know what they're dealing with, tonnage-wise and things like that. And obviously very important where the CFG is for them, with their balance and stuff like that. But obviously, as you see above your head here, again, normally this would people that have probably never been to Costa, my enticement to try and get them in and showing these aeroplanes in all these jaunty angles. Is it good? I don't know. There's no real way. But what we're looking at doing, I'm going to talk a little bit about Hangar 1. We are looking at putting some sensors into the suspension systems now, as well, to start measuring stress loads and see if anything is happening to them while they are being suspended. But you know, how else would you want to display a lightning? Of course, what else we do? We do a bit of fabric work. No longer in our collection, the Oster Atlantique, we passed it on because it didn't have real connections or wasn't telling our story enough, so we've loaned it out, we've gifted it out to another museum where it can go on to public display and be seen. And just to explain the fabric process a little bit, with dating, this is dating back to day one, 1903 when we first started to fly, Irish linen. We can still get the same specifications, so that's what we use when we do any fabric work. Prevent fraying, cutting the edges, pinking on here. Old World War I, you would actually fray the material and stick the frays down to stop it fraying. Go further on then, so you've got the raw material here. The whiter colour there is when it's had the dope, so it starts to tighten it down. Protection over the stitches, and the actual sprayed one up there, you can just about make out the stitching there. So that's the stitching, touching it to the frame, all nice and tight, and then that's ready for its final coat. So again, it's a skill we have up there. I've just got the one gent who does the work for us. Very skilled, probably in the country. Well, maybe Shuttleworth doing it. Maybe one of the other two aviation museums are doing a little bit here and there. So on a day-to-day basis, there's not many people in the country that's doing this. Not many people have this skill. So it's something that we're pretty proud of. We are looking to give Clive, our painter finisher, a traineeship. We're not allowed to call it apprenticeship because it's not a recognised apprenticeship later this year. So where do we work? You're obviously aware of the museum here and one in London, but we've also got a third site, Stafford. I'll cover that a little bit more later and talk about what's happening with Stafford, put a couple of extra slides in. Mention that we are a national museum. So what we have to do, is one of our remits is to help other museums. If we have an object that's stuck in Stafford, in stores, and they say, hey, can we borrow it? We have a good chat with them, where they're going to display it, you know, the conditions, security, blah, 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 all the stuff you expect us to want to know. And if they tick all the boxes, we will loan it out to them. Next Monday, my team are just about to take a prone meteor from here on loan up to Newark Aviation Museum. So by the end of by this time next week, that will be built and on display up there. So we get out and about other museums quite a lot. Gets me free entry to all the museums around the country, it's great. So obviously we're doing exhibitions. If you've been to 2, 3 years, I keep mentioning up here, we've done a lot of work up there. Down in London, we've done a World War I hangar. Now in the future, which is sort of the modern day, 1980s onwards in museum terminology. We've just finished an interwar exhibition, and we've done the 2018 RAF 100 centenary exhibition down there as well, and again, a few up here. So we are working, my team are based here at Cosford, but we do work out both the sites. Public areas, and again, the gents in here now will tell you this, they're mainly the ones that are out on the public face. My guys are locked away. They don't like talking to people, basically, as simple as that, but all my volunteers in here, and part of their job, and we openly encourage that if members of the public are, hey, what are you doing? They go, hey, I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing, and just stand there and have a good conversation about the work that we do, restoring aeroplanes, and just talking, just to make the experience of them coming to the museum, you know, just another tick in the box for us. I happened to be in hangars this morning, and there were some school children in there, and one of the young girls, she was looking for the ME262, and she stood next to the Blenheim, and she said, is that one? And I went, no, I said, that one over there, you know, and it just helps them. It's just all this thing of just us being a museum, just helping where we can. So, talk about the team size, before I go on to just sort of talking about some of the projects we've done. Myself up there, my deputy manager Ian, who's actually our carpenter as well, Carol, who runs our apprenticeship scheme. That used to be 7, I lost 4, 12 months ago. Lost 4 of my positions, so really have been, my staffing level has really been cut. I've got 3 apprentices at the moment. If anybody here knows of anybody looking for an engineering apprenticeship, we have a welder fabricator. That's the qualification they will go out with in about 4 years' time from September. It's advertising on the National Lottery website, not National Apprenticeship website. Search in the heritage, something like that, or go to Shrewsbury College website. There could be a link on there. There's one position available. We are also about to launch, as I mentioned earlier, a surface finished traineeship. It's not falling under the apprenticeship scheme. It will be mirroring an apprenticeship scheme where we'll be looking to take a young person on, teach them how to do fabric work and spraying over the next 4 years, and then possibly that role will stay on within the museum. That's what we're looking at the moment. Both of those roles will also, though, be involved in a lot of this work that I'm going to talk to you about. So going to London to move aeroplanes around, going around the country, going around the world, building aeroplanes, learning aircraft skills, learning carpentry skills, learning fabric skills. So they come out with one qualification, but their portfolio is absolutely quite massive. Very, very proud of it. And of course, I have my lovely volunteers. Got about 40, 45 here at Cosford, got about 15 down in London. And we have a range of everything from aircraft XRF, aircraft engineers, metallurgists, electricians. So we've got all skills. Got just a recent addition in the last couple of years, Jen, who does a lot of lathe work and stuff like that, who's been an absolute great find for us, because that was one of the skills we were lacking. So we do cover a hell of a lot of work. So just to sort of show, and I hadn't realised when I looked at this, as some of my old pictures, maybe we'll update them. Mike's no longer with us. Then the 2 jets here are no longer with us. I think that's Alistair, isn't it? I can't tell from the back. So yeah, so really what they're doing, majority of the work that my volunteers do is out in the public areas, out there on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Sundays, servicing the aeroplanes, looking for defects and things like that. Got a little bit more in-depth work in a minute that I can show you that they do. But that's what I get on average a year, 18,000 man hours. That's just here at Cosford. That's not taking into consideration the London side. That equates to at minimum wage. So that's a huge, huge contribution to the museum. We obviously just don't have the engineering volunteers here at the museum. It is actually a job, almost a job application if you want to join nowadays. I don't know if Ken's in here. Where's Ken? Ken, because Ken's on front of the house. And with my glass on, I guess. I know Ken's in here, so there are other opportunities within the museum. And if you're interested in anything like that, helping out at the museum, just get on the website and just look under the volunteering and see if there's any positions available. Did mention the apprenticeship scheme. It did die a little bit of a death with COVID, obviously with all that, lots of changes going on, but we are, as I've just mentioned, starting it up again this year. So this is sort of just to give you an overview of what we've done over the years. We started in 2005, just after I joined. We started training the youngsters as aviation engineers, but we felt it wasn't quite right. We couldn't quite get the courses at that time we wanted. We were doing it from the RAF camp, and all of a sudden they said, oh, we're going to charge you. We went, no, we're not. We're going to pull out. And so we ended up going for the metal fabricator welder, which in the West Midlands, they'll all go out there. People are waiting for them to come out, read of our apprenticeship scheme and lapping them up. So in the end, well, that's our first two there, Rebecca and David. They're actually there in Seattle. We set up an international exchange with Boeing students, 3-week exchange. So they went. They were in there for three weeks. So of course they're working on old aeroplanes. What they don't get skills on is carbon fibres, and that's what they're doing there. They're doing some night work, doing carbon fibre, building skateboards or something like that. That's what they were building. It was all the skills they needed to learn carbon fibre. We have reciprocal visits here where we would teach 3 Boeing students the conservation skills and things like that, but it also included days out and things like that. As the tours progressed, they got bigger and better, and I was very fortunate, I'm going to say 2010, 11, around about that sort of time, to actually lead one of the tours. You know, I look a lot younger there, don't I? I know some of you will know the answer from my team in here, but have a quick look at that while I'm just talking now and see if anybody can recognise, pick out what that is. But I took those 2 gents there, Martin and Nathan, with me. This gent was from Boeing, Australia. He came and joined us for the 3 weeks. We had 13 nights in Seattle, so we did all the tour of all the Boeing facilities, including some of the secret ones where they were, in those days, drones were in sort of very early technology. We got into places like that, and that's us being welcome on arrival. I hadn't realised that my shirt's the same now. I did change it during the tour. I didn't wear it for the 3 weeks that I was out. I did one shirt. I'm not quite that bad. So we toured everywhere for 13 nights, and then towards the end of that, I think we did 11 days. And then the last 2 days, we're working here on a B-25, John Sessions Historic Flight Foundation, getting out the same airfield that Boeing fly from. And then, of course, we've done a servicing. What do? We get a fly in a Boeing B-25. Yeah, sorry. So I've had a flight in the Jag, I've had a flight in the B-25, I just need a biplane now. I'm going to go back to this slide because this is not, I've not told about the whole tour. We ended up going from Seattle to Philly, and we saw the Chinook and Osprey facility there, and worked with a group there for a couple of days. And then we had 2 or 3 days in Washington DC to go around the major museums before we transferred to see this. Has anybody worked out what it might be? No. It's a space shuttle.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So when we ended up going to Florida, we ended up having VIP tours of the Kennedy Space Center. We were in the Director of Operations office on the first morning.
Wow.
I don't know if any of you have ever done the tour there. You go out on a bus to see the launch pads, and the launch pads are sort of there at the curvature of the Earth. You can just about make them out. We get actually out on the launch pads. Building very similar to mine there. These are 19, 20-year-old lads getting exposed to this at an early stage in their career. We're in buildings very similar to mine, and they're servicing one of the space shuttles to go back up on a flight. What else can you expect? So, it's, again, something I've had in the museum and finishing, having flights like this. Again, it's something that's going to live with me to the end of my time. I did mention earlier about the award. That was a National Apprenticeship Award 2010, best apprenticeship in the UK. I always thought, when I'm probably very biased, when people come in and start talking to you about what you do, you go Spitfire, blah 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 blah, Spitfire, blah 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 blah, Spitfire, and you just keep chucking the buzzwords, and as far as we're concerned, there's not a lot better than a Spitfire. So we always felt we had a good win by what we were doing, but there was a lot of tick boxes we had to go through. We won a lot regionally as well. We went in for the awards in 2011 as well, same award, but they actually said to us, we don't give it to anybody 2 years, and they gave us second that year. Chip Shop it, Scunthorpe won it that year, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, yeah. So, chippies, and then we thought, right, if they're not going to give us it again, what can we do? So in 2012, Laura, who was my carpenter apprentice at that time, we entered her into the individual one, and she walked away with the national title. So again, another tick. Since then, we've not really sort of gone forward for any awards. Just felt like we were winning everything we went into, which is actually quite nice. Another thing that is part of my job is outreach, promoting the museum. That's why I said this talk I normally go out and give to sort of the U3A, progress clubs and things like that, just to try and get people an introduction to the museum, to come here at some point and see what we're doing. My work, funny, but all my volunteers and all my staff, as soon as the camera walks in the hangar, they all go and have a cup of tea and just leave me there. But to be honest with you, I'll sit all day talking to the lovely Jenny Buckley. She was absolutely brilliant. Probably the best TV presenter I've worked with over the years. So that was Escape the Country, which pops its head up on BBC Two normally, or one of the other odd channels every now and then. Get on. So now, sort of giving you a sort of bit of a background, I'm going to talk through some of the projects that we have done over the years. Just to start with, all this is down in London. So this is sort of the modern RAF Museum. Again, I say if you haven't looked around up there, this is Hangar 1 in London, introduction to the Air Force, so lots of different objects, showcases you can see dotted around everywhere with the smaller objects, introducing people, introducing the youngsters to aviation, sort of getting them interested, giving them games, giving them keyboards and things to do to get them interested in the museum and hopefully aviation. And this is actually, even though this is a graphic, if you've not been to London for since 2018, you are greeted by all the hats. There's about, I don't know, 50, 60 different hats, all in plastic cases like that, and that's what greets you into the museum. So as soon as you walk in, you think, hey, I'm not necessarily going to be in an Air Force aircraft museum anymore, I'm coming into a different style of museum. This is our, to 1980s onwards, one down in London, not that big of a hall, but again, we had a couple of suspensions going on in there, including a drone and things like that in there, the EAP, Jag, as you can see. We borrowed the Jag from the RAF here, still only on loan to us. Yeah, so that's what that one's like. And then, of course, this was to do with the RAF centenary, and at that time we supported the RAF in a UK-wide tour. We loaned them our the GR3 that's here now. They were taking that around, and my team followed them around, and we were transporting this Sopwith Snipe. So just getting it out there, again, getting into the public faces. The RAF was celebrating the 100th anniversary. We wanted to make sure we were there. That's Cardiff. So we did all four corners, went to Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, a couple of places in England, just putting it on display. Hey, this is the RAF, come and help, come and see us, come and support us, and trying to get people to join the Air Force as well at the same time. 10th of July, this was the, even though the 1st of April was the 100th anniversary, 10th of July was always going to be the day when the big celebration happened. Again, another apologies, I know I'm talking a little bit about sort of stories, but this is another day that I will never ever forget. All that work that was going on, I showed you about the RAF centenary, I had lots going on. I used to sneak an odd hour or two at a weekend, just sit down with my wife, maybe not around, well, try and catch up with a few emails or something like that. And just happened to be working well. My laptop came, it was our chief executive sent me an email, hey, would you like to come with me as my guest on the centenary celebrations? Emailed straight back, yes. Didn't know what it meant, but yes. She come back to me and went, why are you working on a Saturday? So I went back to her, why are you working on a Saturday? So anyway, we had a conversation, and it came out that she had a ticket to go to the RAF celebrations, which started in Westminster Abbey. And she said, I don't want to take my husband, I want to take somebody from the museum who served in the Air Force, and I was very, very fortunate to be the one that got picked. I got to Westminster Abbey. Maggie was going down to attend the RAF Memorial to lay a wreath with Chief of Air Staff, Benevolent Fund, RAF Association, people like that. She said, I will meet you in Westminster Abbey. Absolutely fine, no problem at all. I'll find my way there. I got to Westminster Abbey, I bumped into giants, Crash and Smash. You may have heard of them before, some guys I know for that. So I was just chatting with them, filtering in, first checkpoint, have you got tickets? We all got tickets. Then we're going through, because the Queen was going to be there, and the royal family. We got to the filtering down to the second one, which is where you were going through the security checks. And there was another gent there, one officer or something shouting, right, tickets out. So we all got the tickets out. I had a white ticket. meant nothing to me. It was a white bit of paper with my name on it, and he said, "You come here." Okay. He took me straight into Westminster. I said, "What about the security checks?" "Oh, no, you've been vetted, you're fine." Okay. So I thought, what the hell's going on here? At this stage, I only knew I was just ending up in it. If you've ever been in Westminster Abbey, when you go further down in, you've got the choir pews. I'm sat in one of them, and I'm thinking, where's Maggie? I'm here on my own, but there's lots of other people around that I recognise. At that stage, the royal family hadn't come in. I was probably, from me to Chris, away from the Queen, sat that close, and over the other side of me was the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, the Scottish lady, what's her name? Sturgeon, and there was all Defence Secretaries, all over and around me was all these people all braiding and all this sort of stuff on him. What the hell am I doing in here? But that's Maggie got invited, and I was very fortunate to turn up as her guest. Again, it was something that it got even better. And then from there, we went out. When the Queen and the Royals walked out, we sort of hushed and followed them out. And there's all these dignitaries from all around the world sat out in the main part of the Abbey. We're walking past all them, Maggie looking at each other, thinking, "What the hell's going on here?" And we got shipped into Buckingham Palace. Just on the side where this was going, so it'd be wrapped around about here on the flat ground, there was actually it's on the next slide, there was a little stand put in, and it's for all the dignitaries. And after that, we ended up in Buckingham Palace, a finger buffet upstairs. But no, I know they're pretty poor photographs, but again, if you saw that on the day, you know, the amount of people, and you can imagine the noise that filtered through to us. That was part of the fly, and you can see where I was filming that from. So, you know, as I say, when that all finished and the regiment and the Royals had gone inside, we were all ushered upstairs at the far side. There was, even though that day sticks in my mind as probably the best day, there was a very, very sad moment, and a few people, especially the committee, will remember Gaz Stevens.
Oh, yeah.
Of all places to bump into Gaz Stevens. Gaz used to be the RAF representative, and he was on the committee. He was our RAF representative, and he did a hell of a lot for the museum. A lot of museum staff bumped into him. He was up the same place as me in there, and sadly that was the last time I saw him. 11 months later, he had a fatal motorbike accident. So that 10th of July is a good memory for me, but there's also that little sad moment as well. So at the same time, there were other things going on, and there was a big thing going on in the Guildhall, London, being hosted by Prince Charles, foreign Commonwealth heads going in. Of course, so they were trying to do something outside, and we had a couple of these gate guarding ones that we were putting outside down in London. We had them just ready, and we got invited to put some objects with a few other museums. Brooklyn's did some stuff, World War I airplanes. We managed to get Pride of Place right in front. Again, did a lot of preparation for this, and I don't know if you know, but the Guildhall, beneath the Guildhall, is an amphitheatre, Roman amphitheatre. So there's limits on weight what you can put on there, so that they were only allowing one crane on there at a time. We had big lorries coming in with all this sort of kit on. Lucky enough, the bill wasn't too long. We were told, I think, we had a 2 o'clock in the morning slot, which turned out to be 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before they got in and got started. Absolutely fine. The job guys were fine. Got back to hotels, did what were required of them. Because they said to me at the meetings, well, you're having the last slot. Would you like the first slot on the Sunday morning when we strip? This was Thursday. On the strip, yeah, fine. We'll pay my guys back. We'll give them an early one. What nobody told me, and I hadn't realised, the Sunday they went to collect the airplanes to strip them down, it was the London Marathon. Trying to get to the London Guildhall with lorries on that day. So people in London weren't really talking to each other at that time. So yeah, but again, another tick in the box for us as a museum. And I know certainly Jeff in here has been involved in this. Sopwith Dolphin, this is one of our projects. Talking a little bit more about some of the projects that we've done over the years. Again, those buzzwords I mentioned at the front. There are some original parts from an early Sopwith Dolphin built into this framework. But the wings you can see are all brand spanking new, because they are. So these are sort of a replication of the wings. Beautiful original engine there. I think it's can't remember the CC on it, but the BHP massive engine like that was only around about 200 brake force, so not typical what you'd expect from an aeroplane in those days. Slightly, I think still a bit of better shot there. And when you're looking at making these spars, it's spruce wood. You have to go and no faults in them at all. So when we're going out trying to get wood to with the forestry commission, things like that, we're talking to them. We want, if we're going to have some wood off, it has to be perfect. Any defects like knots in it, snap straight away. So yeah, you've got that. And there's a technical drawing there. Andy Woods. How many times did he swear at us, Jeff, in that project? Yeah, he was tasked with making the full set of the ironworks, really to attach all the wings. So 4, 16, at least 20 bits of this out of mild steel. Can I go and get it laser cut? No, because they didn't have lasers in those days. So you do it how they did it on the bench, filing and drilling and cutting and bending and all that sort of stuff. But fair play to him, he stuck with the task and he made all the fixtures and fittings for attaching the wings and then attaching upper and lower struts and things like that. So yeah, took a long time, a lot of swearing, but fair play to him, very, very skilled gent. And again, because we're doing a replication and times and things like that, it had an interrupter gear. Again, another very... Jeff, did you ever meet gent that done all this stuff? What's her name? Alec. Alec from a gent from Birmingham. I've worked with a lot of guys I think are absolutely brilliant engineers. I think Alec would probably be the greatest engineer that I've ever met. If I say to him, he's still around, he's in his 90s now. I got invited to his house 10, 12 years ago. You go in his house and see that typical, we'll say that something like a radial engine up there. It's fitted on the Hercules, put in front by the Hercules or something like that, Bristol Pegasus 18. He will come in, he'll take a couple of photographs, go on, and he will make a working scale model. You go into his living room. Oh, there's this little train track I've made. He's made all the train, everything. There's a train running around it. Oh, so look at these clocks. He said they're not accurate, but I made them all. All these big clocks with the weight swinging away. Absolutely incredible. He's got his conservatory is just full of like little lathes and things like that. It's just unbelievable. And he just came out with a scruffy old notepad, a pencil, an old ruler. Yeah, okay, thank you. And they come back. Yes, there you go. And everything he built just fitted perfectly. Incredible gent, absolutely incredible. And so yeah, so some of the guys then were making bits and pieces that we didn't have and populating cockpits and things like that. We don't just try and do the outside of airplane and make them look pretty. We try to do the insides as well. We try and do the full restoration and hopefully, yeah, there we go. There's the beauty. That is shot up on the corner up there. All the photographs we want to try to replicate the picture of this one. Every photograph we had, it was on grass. This was January, we didn't want to put it on grass, so we just chucked some camo netting down. That's why it looks a bit, the picture looks a bit rough. But that is a full-size Sopwith Dolphin. Sopwith's very first water-cooled engine. Beautiful aeroplane. Oh gosh, you're going to have to shut me up now. Spitfire. Yeah, Spitfire. Our Spitfire 19. We love the Spitfire. We love the Spitfire 19, very much so. In 2011, the museum we had a call from the Foreign Commonwealth Office. There's a British trade fair going on in Kuwait City. McLaren cars are going out. We would like something a little bit older and iconic. It represents British in engineering. How does Spitfire feel? Absolutely fine. Thank you. We have this one in our collection. Up at staff, you can see there's no engine on the front. One of my techies, Dave Carr, had to manufacture a tailplane, but we ended up getting her out there. Went out by air freight, Q80 Royal Air Force of Kuwait took her out there for us, and we ended up building her in a shopping mall. There you go. And, love look at the shiny floors, and having to build an aeroplane with all sorts of jacking equipment, things like that. Yeah, right next to the McLaren cars. 5 days she was on public display. Of course, Mr. British Ambassador got to see it. Oh, that's really nice. It would look good in my garden. So we stripped her. A few weeks later, we flew back out and we built it in the garden for one of his garden parties. A bit more difficult when you're building it in small areas on grass. We did get to win his swimming pool there. It was very, very hot. Of course, we're out there then, we're doing all this. Mr. BA Systems gets to hear that we're out in the Middle East with a Spitfire. They are touring the region with their latest fighter, the Typhoon, trying to flog it to the nations out there. So we got invited then across a few weeks later to UAE. So this is Al Ain, if you ever get the chance to go to the Al Ain Air Show, if it's as good as then, wow, it's mad. I don't think there's a height limit. Some of the heights that people were coming, some of the objects were coming, airplanes were coming down. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, so we got to go into the UAE. And we're going to Bahrain next. So we ended up going to Bahrain. She did come back after the first visit in Bahrain, and the Bahrainians requested that she went back out. And this is her on the second visit. STEM, they wanted her out there for the magic word STEM, get the youngsters out there. What we looked to do as well, when we've gone to the Kuwaits, the UAE, things like that, I don't want to send a team of 5 or 6 out to build a Spitfire. I want to send 2 or 3 out. What we do, we contact local colleges. Hey, have you got some youngsters who would like to come and work with us? And absolutely amazing. You get the youngsters out there so enthusiastic to help us build these Spitfires, things like that. We give them the training there, and then it takes us about 4 hours to build that Spitfire.
Wow.
With them, it might take us a couple of days, but again, they're learning. You can imagine the press that they get for it, the youngsters building a Spitfire all over the paper. We don't care, we don't want to be in the photos. We're just doing our STEM bit, but yeah. So she spent 6 months on her last trip out there, and as she was literally about to get stripped, Prince Charles, he would have been there with a royal from the Bahrainian royal family as well. Got to see the Spitfire, so you know, it was nice ticking the box at the end for us. Then we got her back to the UK, and a couple of summers ago, the museum wanted to say, hey, to the Midlands, we're out here and we're going to put a Spitfire in your city centres. Have a little video. It was built, it was done after that. So as you can see, we got out there and built Spitfires. Probably the most interesting one of the lot was boring in Birmingham. It's literally outside the train station. As you walk down a New Street train station, you walk across the road, we built on the plaza by there. The sitting Spitfire cockpit that you saw, again, total replica, was built one of the technicians. I know Roy had an input helping the padded seat with Darren and his wife. So yeah, again, something got out. But again, we're taking an object out that people could relate to as a Spitfire. It was only a section about 8 foot long. As you saw, just about anybody that could walk from young to older could get in and have a sit-in Spitfire experience. It's a flat floor. Normal Spitfires got tubes everywhere, horrible little floors on them, but we actually put a flat floor in, be kind to the public. So yeah, you can imagine that. I think the Leicester was the one that they mentioned. It's quite interesting because we went down about 5, 6 o'clock at night and built the Spitfire. Of course, what have you got going on then 5, 6 o'clock? You've got people in city centres going into the pubs, things like this. Coming out 2 or 3 hours later, thinking, what have I been drinking? There was not a Spitfire there when I went in. Sort of thing. I mentioned 4 hours. It is literally from what you saw being towed out on those 2 wagons for us to get them unloaded and built 4 hours. We have cheated, yes, there's no pipe work, no fuel pipe work, no cable controls between the wings. It's literally put the wing in, whack a bolt in, put the panels on, prop, build it, chuck it on. We've even got a straight, no serrations on the prop, just drop it straight on a tube, put a bolt through. So we've made it as quick as possible, made it as light as possible. And I say, they'll tell me 3 hours, I always say 4 hours, but yeah. So yeah, we do love our 19. She was at the air show this year. Might have to park her away, strip her down and put her away very, very soon with all the work we've got coming up. Just something else that I was involved with in my early days when I was on the benches. I was asked to replicate this for an FE2B, this bomb and bomb cradle. Trying to find paperwork, drawings, things like that. We didn't have any. But we did come up with this one here of the, I think it's a 250 pounder, 10-inch diameter there. So, on the next one, yeah. So utilising these two pictures as well there, we know that there, across there, is 10 inches. We scaled them up to about A2 size, worked it out and then put scales on there. I had my apprentice Kyle with me at the time. We were making things, I was making it out of card on the wall to show me how it all fit and work. And then we come up with a mechanism for how the bomb is released. And he built the whole system with my guidance. There's the trigger mechanism there, it's a spring load. Actually, you just literally pull that lever there, pull the cable, and it just falls out. Basically, the bomb is a free fall from then onwards. But again, I had him making all that in card on the table to make sure all the measurements that he'd done were correct and the thing would actually actuate. And there's the final thing that he helped produce. That now is above the heads in Hangar 2 at London. So what we've done to stop anything, the input cable there, probably that little silver bit there, we've actually put a little red gag on it, so if somebody does go up there and does pull it, the bomb won't come off. Mentioned that sometimes we do some big stuff, some stuff is a little bit above our capability for equipment and the time it would take, so we do contract out. This is how you wake Shifnal up on a Sunday morning, bring a VC10 through the middle of the town, then going in through the back gate, lucky enough there for rear wheel steering, and then she starts getting built and then onto public display. So we do work with companies. I'm talking with GJD at the moment. I'm hoping to throw some more work their way for some of the large airplane moves I've got coming up in about 12 months' time here, and they're all based here at Cosford. The only thing wrong with this VC10, it says 101 Squadron on there. I think the VC10s were in the RAF for something like 48 years. 1 year they were on 101 Squadron, which was the last year. 47 years, which was my squadron, 10 Squadron, 47 years under 10 Squadron, they painted 101 on it, absolutely hate it. I ought to go out there one day and just scrub out the back second one. So yeah, but no, she's a beaut. I'm hoping, I think at some point in time there's going to be guided tours inside here as well, along with the ones, the Nimrod ones that will be coming up. I had to put this in, Graham, thank you. A lot of the work that my team would love to do, but we just don't have the time, and my great volunteers get involved with it. Just recently we found some damage on the Mosquito wing, so they're investigating the damage, what we need to do repair, and I get these beautiful page reports, 3 or 4 page reports coming out. Massive report come out there on the Lincoln, I'm going to say 20 odd pages, all about the bolts that are not fitted. If you ever get offered a flight in our Lincoln, don't go. That's a good tip, Graham, isn't it? About a third of the bolts are fitted or something silly like that, or there's no nuts on. And that's really what we've been dealing with. We're trying to make sure all these objects that are out here are safe. Ones that have historically been in the museum for a long time, we don't know. So we've started looking at them, say the Lincoln wing, and here's another very, very good example. TSR2, this is the Elevon, whatever they're known as. Same size almost as a Spitfire wing, this thing. Big heavy lump of metal. When Graham and the team took off the access panel, that's what we found inside, 4 bits of oak to hold it on. And this is what we're up against when we start looking. I think it was kicked off by the Harrier GR9 down in London. We went to suspend her and we started the inspections because she was here and found that the 6 wing bolts were B&Q bolts. They just brought her in, just put in whatever they had in their back pocket and went. So on the back of that we started looking at aeroplanes to make sure they were safe. But again, so now you can walk under the TSI2 rear televons, they are safe. We've painted the bits red, that just shows to anybody in the future that this is being repaired and these are not original parts. So yes, it's not going to come off on your head. And again, Alec made the parts, he was the one who did the nuts for us actually, quite a big thread. This is one thing, again, this is TSR2 again. If anybody can explain to me why that happened, I have no idea. I really can't. To me, this is absolutely incredible. This is sort of aircraft graffiti in my eyes. It's an all, I don't know if you're aware, but the fin on the TSR2 is all actuating. So to stop it moving around, whoever brought the thing in decided to rivet a piece of metal there to stop it moving. There's holes there, they all line up. why not put a piece there? So yeah, the more I look at it, the more angry it makes me. They just drill holes in an airplane for whatever reason. Please explain it to me, someone. I do not know. So these are the sort of things when we start looking at the objects that we're starting to find. Oh, come on, Everest. Batteries go. Something's frozen. My wife's all of a sudden it went. Yeah, should be on the dizzy. Again, another project we've done here, a lot of involvement with the volunteers and a mixture of my team as well. Clive had only just come in. He'd never done any fabric work before, so very quickly had to learn how to fabric an aeroplane. So I gave him the nice sand, a lot of fabric on there and the wings, things like that. And we had this historic photo from about 45, I think it is, of our exact aeroplane. So we could actually make a very, very true representation, very accurate representation of where all the markers with demarcations and things like that. You may notice there's a ladder and the long-range fuel tank. This is the only existing special ops license. Even though it never flew on any ops, it was actually on the special ops squadron. It's the only one in existence. So we put it back into the scheme. We had to manufacture a tank, and there's the ladder there as well. So the maker is complete as possible. What's wrong with this one? See the paint line there? But if you look on the historic one, so even though it's historically incorrect like that, we've transferred it over as it was. So people, I bet down in London, especially in the early days, the public come around going, that doesn't look right, but we actually had the photographic evidence that even though it is wrong to the eye, it is actually right. I don't know, it must have been a colour blind or something techie that was fitting it. I don't really understand how you could get that wrong, but again, we have evidence to how it should look, so that's why we put it on display like that. Something again, the team heavily involved with the volunteers again, and been a mixture of my team, the paid staff and the volunteers have been doing over the last 12 years, believe it or not. And finally, she went on display last year. And the same, if you haven't been to the hangars, it's almost worth going up there just to see the Wellington herself. So we stripped her in. We never had a target date. I only had ended up a target date about 3 or 4 years before. So she was sort of ticking over. They stripped her all out. So that's your bare geodetic structure with all the fabric removed off the aeroplane. And so, of course, then I've given Clive his first job, which was to do a Lysander. His second job was to do a Wellington. So here he is now doing Wellington. Slightly different way of fitting it. You can see some wooden strips here. So wood strips, and there's little bits of wood underneath to stop it fretting on the metal airframe. Again, there's it being doped down. Shot from the other side then with the wood shows quite nicely when you start putting all the paints and things on. Yeah, the computer's running slow, I can see it. I have clicked. So there she is now on public display. Absolutely looks stunning. 11,462 manufactured. There's this one and the one in Brooklyn. So she's a beaut. The electricians have put some lighting inside. We've left the rear turret off. When we were doing the restoration, what the museum was saying to us, we want to show off geodetic structure. And everybody was saying, fabric about, and then we'll put a big section of the fabric out so you can see the geodetic underneath. I said, no, I'm not having that happen. So I said, why don't we just leave the rear turret off? We put the rear turret one side of the walkway and got this the other side on PIR. As you walk up to it, lights up the whole inside up. It's amazing. More recently, they've done the front as well. So if you walk around the front of the airplane, all the cockpit and all the glazing lit up inside there. Doesn't do it justice, I don't think, what you're seeing there. It's quite incredible what the view looking down through. And we don't always do aeroplanes and boats. We've done a lot of vehicle work, and I must, for the brilliant work that's gone on out there on the Green Goddess, add some Green Goddess slides in. It's quite exceptional. Have a little look at the Green Goddess when you go up the stairs. She's amazing. One thing we could never understand with the trench-eye vehicle that was used for his funeral. This is a 1942 vehicle or something like that, and it was used in 1956. 1942 vehicle, normally in 1943, is knackered. This is like 14 years later, they're using it in his funeral. We haven't been able to find out. We've spoken with the family, why this vehicle was used. We have no connection. She sat there in need, really, of some sort of restoration, but we don't want to touch her until we know the history of what's on there at the moment. She's just down the way in here. There's a beautiful vehicle, and you can see all like the coffin fittings on top. So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful vehicle. And some of the other things that Jim has been involved with is the inside of the Nimrod. It may look like a Nimrod on the inside, on the outside. Go inside now, and Jim and Lynn and the team have been working on that. All these scopes start working. Little Raspberry Pis, they've wired them all in, all the lights work, all the Raspberry Pis are firing up all these things. You look at the experience now when you're inside, it's like you're on a flying aeroplane. It's quite incredible. They've taken a section of the floor out over the centre wing area, so as you walk it, again, PR comes on, you can look down, you're walking on a bit of heavy-duty perspex, you can see underneath all the aileron controls and things like that that are down there. Again, just visitor experience, that's what we're trying to do. Not being rude to the museum, but if you think about it otherwise, if we're not doing this sort of stuff, a couple of slides I'm going to show you, or the next slide I'm going to show you, you're really looking at a painted piece of metal in the shape of a Spitfire or a Vulcan, things like that. By taking a door, opening a door, taking floors out, making electrics work inside aeroplanes, it's all adding to that experience. And again, we had none of these boxes. The guy that made all that stuff for the Sopwith Dolphin, that was his hand skill. One of them's original, one's a replica. I don't know which is which. I don't know if Jeff or Jim could probably tell me either. So again, the Valiant up here, take the door off, put a little step there so people can see inside. People go and have a look inside, because that's what we want them to do. The BMP out here, open the doors at the back, put some perspex there, put some light inside. It's of interest to people to look inside. What is of interest on the BMP, the two doors there, and the wing doors up near the back, they're actually the fuel tanks. So if you ever want to shoot with one of these, that's where you aim. And again, above our head, the Victor one there as well. And something that you're all walking past, and many times, if you've been here, if you're regular to the visits, it's above our head up there on a PIR. Again, I think it cost me about £30 out of my budget to buy the LED lighting to go inside to simulate to the younger generations who are still learning. There's a couple of graphics on there, cold, warm, hot sort of regions, just done with modern day technology, just changing, and she spins as well as you're fully aware. Just getting to the end now, so I really just want to cover what's going to happen with the museum now over the next 3 years. I am going to be super busy because we have got quite a lot on. So if you start in our top hangar, you start off with a very small introduction to the Air Force. You have World War I, you have Interwar, Battle of Britain, a bit of the Bomber Command store, including German side, then you come out to do a couple of test flight aeroplanes are still there. You come into the Cold War hangar, you have a timeline. Right, when you get to the shop, we class that as 1980, around about the Falklands time, that sort of period, and that's where Cosford timeline ends. This is our bottom hangar, hangar 1. Entrance in there, and you're going to get from 1980 to now and the future. Which by the future we're going to be talking Space Command and things like that. I have got a slide in. So to give you in an isometric view, that might show you a little bit more. This may not be 100% accurate, what you'll see when you come in, but this is the latest, what they're thinking at the moment. So there's your door, come in, straight away in front of your head there's a red arrow on there. Bravo November is going to be a big thing. As you can see, there's going to be a ramp to get you inside. You can have an experience, you can go inside the most famous helicopter, or Chinook helicopter in the world. Puma up on 6 above your head as well. You come down here, AWACS Rotodome, which is in my place at the moment. We've secured since the AWACS have gone out of service. That's going to be there. Hoping to get a plastic F-35 Tempest. We're trying to get a Transport Typhoon, very unlikely, so we may have to use the EAP that's here until one of them come. But for any of those, when the RAF goes on detachment, the RUB hangars, we're going to have that's going to be F3 Tornado, that's going to be a GR4 Tornado, but inside we've got the RUB hangar. So this is the sort of the operation downline, when they're out in Iraq and places like that. One side we're going to armour up, the other side is going to be like the maintenance side, potentially bomb, engine doors open, engines hanging down underneath. So we're sort of looking into all that. And this little corner here, which I haven't really spoken about at the moment, this is going to be sort of like more talking about the modern day drones. We're hoping to get our hands on a repair drone to be suspended in some way, little drones on the top. The two cabins there will be a simulation of the cabins that are used today, where the static RAF Waddington flying drones over Afghanistan or wherever they're flying and finding them from there. So we're going to have all that simulated out in some way or another. Just to give you an idea, that the two main drones that we're looking at getting for this corner are these two here. cannot believe the weight of the Reaper, over 2 tons. The drone we built, the Predator we put down in London, only weighed about half a ton, and that was massive. I hate to think how big this thing's going to be. This may be a surprise. If you get home tonight, put a Jackal drone into your search engine and have a little look at it. This is the incoming thing. This can carry weaponry on. It's going to have rocket pods on the side. It's not very big, as you can see. It doesn't weigh very much. That's going to be the upgraded version. That'll be the all-up weight. But again, this is the latest, next generation of drone that's likely to come into the Air Force. It's going to be a small aeroplane flying low and fast. I'll be able to carry munitions that can take out tanks and things like that. There's a very, very good video online of, say, Jackal drone, one to remember. And then outside of the building as well, there's going to be sort of classrooms. It's going to be beautification outside, things like that. So it's going to be a place, hopefully, that people will get attracted to and get the complete RS story here at Cosford. So that is a lot of work for me over the next 3 years. But there's one other thing going on, and exactly the same period. If you've been up to my place and seen where the Dornier was, Dornier tunnels, we are looking at that grass area there as bringing our reserve collection, so 60,000 items, which are now on store at Stafford, to a brand new building up on that grassed area as well. As you can see from this, we don't have a design for the building yet. They're still looking into it, but what we're being told from director level is it has to be interactive. So we're thinking like objects behind glass windows, walkways, guided tours. So the reserve collection, like it is at the moment, lots of way at Stafford, will be open to the public in some guise. Let's say either viewing, guided tours, windows where we can rotate things around. Even the racking in my place is going to become part of this system. I keep joking, keep saying where they're going to put the Costa coffee, but it could happen. But I don't know. So, yeah, 60,000 objects potentially we've got to get bagged up, hazard checked, and transferred down here to a new building at some point. So, you know, double up the amount of work that me and my team have got to do in the coming years. Just a quick update. I know a few years back now I spoke about the Dornier. 2013 we dragged her out. She was ready for, could have gone on display from about 2017. She's just been sat in my place, but the good news is now this is our Hangar 2 layout, and we are looking to put the Dornier wing section there along with some of the engines as well. So yeah, finally going to get her on display. And again, when I spoke a few years back on the Hamden project, we've got to the stage now where she's going to be going to London Museum on display later this year, and that's what she looks like now. Again, all this buzzwords about access and things like that, Hamden is absolutely perfect for it. Wheelchair access, anything, anybody can go in through there and look without climbing in the aeroplane and look both ways. So this is a real tick in the box when we get her down to London sometime this year. Always worth I always like to plug and say I'm going out to groups, RAF stories. If you've got any connections, any RAF stories, it literally does what it says on the tin. They will record your stories. It could be 5 minutes long, it could be 5 hours long. I think probably the one that I always remember, we had a gent who used to visit us. He was a Wellington pilot, Ron Cooper. He came to the NBCC Open Weeks. He used to stand there engaging with the public, absolutely lovely guy. We sat him down and said, Ron, we need 5 minutes of your RAF career. 1 hour and 15 minutes later, without any prompt at all, he actually said, I think I've finished. Absolute genuine guy. Sadly, the last time I saw him was pre-COVID, so I don't think he's still around, but absolutely made a major impression on us. That's sort of me. I do get paid to do all that work and go out and fly and be 25s and things like that, but if anybody's got any questions on anything I've covered or anything else to do with the museum, I'll do my very, very best to answer them. But if not, thank you very, very much, and I hope it was a suitable replacement for what, well, I know that would have been a very, very good lecture tonight, which I may get later in the year for you anyway.
Any questions on the research aircraft you've got?
Yeah.
Are they going to be moved away or dispersed?
What we are looking to do is something we want to keep in our collection, and what we're looking to loan. We've said Pro Meteor now on Monday is literally going to Newark. I shouldn't say these sort of things. Northern Ireland are looking at the Ulster Aviation have inquired about the SB5, let's say. Hopefully you get that. Bristol, Aerospace Bristol, I've inquired about the Bristol 188. Hopefully things will happen there. So I've got the SR53 is in my building at the moment. We've had people from the Isle of Wight come over to have a look at that, and they said potentially next year they might ask for a loan. So yeah, we're keeping the things within our collection at the moment, but hopefully we're going to put them out. And if we do put them out, it will be to go on public display. Yeah. So yeah, that's where. Long term, long after I finish at the museum, where the Hercules is now, the longer term vision. So we're probably talking 2035, where the Hercules is now, is to have a STEM hangar there. And that's when, if any of these STEM aircraft are still in our collection, could potentially come back to this site. So yeah, that's what's happening with them at the moment. Thank you.
Do you have, with apprenticeships, do you find it difficult to get people, or is it be queuing up? What's the situation at the moment?
It's sort of, in the early days, when we started, we had a lot, and it seemed to drop off just before COVID. We'd like to interview about 6. And we're probably only getting about 10 applicants coming through. We were using Wolves College, and Wolves College were taking them in, doing assessments and things like that, and then just sending us this sheet of paper with no names on, saying this is their school grades, this is what we've assessed them at, and we just read it down, pick a few out, and normally the ones that got the better one, and interview them. But, we put out for the fabricated welder last week, and straight away within the first week we had 6 applicants come through. They might not follow it up, but so yeah, it was a good start. I don't know what it is.
That's good. And a little question, if I may.
Yeah.
You're talking about our association with Boeing. You didn't mention Airbus. What's the situation as with it? Do we have the same relationship with Airbus as we've got the same manufacturing in England?
I suppose the Boeing connection is probably not quite as it used to be. It's through a group called RAF, the Royal Air Force Museum American Foundation.
Yeah.
That was some sort of very wealthy Americans who loved the Air Force and wanted to help us out, and they were funding that too. The Dornier, Airbus were very much involved with the Dornier. They were under, they weren't actually called Airbus at that time that were supporting us, but they were of the Airbus group. So yes, generally BA Systems, big support in the museum. So yeah, all the big names you would expect. We're talking with MBDA at the moment about getting a rapier system into the museum for our new hangar as well. So a lot of the defence, what you would call the defence network, and civilian aviation out there work with us quite closely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yes.
How do you balance the regular work with the maintenance work with the longer term? Because it must be quite difficult at times. How does health and safety work out with the volunteers and the staff as well?
Health and safety is health and safety. That's as simple as that. You know, there's no oh, you're a volunteer, you can risk yourself. Nothing like that. No, they work on exactly the same level. It's what we need to know. Like for the new exhibition now, they've told me Puma being suspended, and for suspension, that's anything basically off its wheels, whether it's on a plinth or on a wire. The Puma, the Rotodome, Red Arrow Hawk, Reaper, F-35, Jackal. So I'm saying to them, I need these objects now, because I need to get them in, I need to get them inspected. So it's available to be able to do the job at the time. We have quieter periods. The majority, as I said earlier, the volunteers working in the hangars looking after them. The Wellington, we were ticking away, doing a little bit here and there, and all of a sudden they said, we want it in 3-4 years' time. And she had no fabric on the outside, and I think the fabric took 2.5 years to get on the fuselage and lay. So all of a sudden then, crikey, what are we doing now? Right, stop everything. Let's prioritise the Wellingtons. And the volunteer team got inside, kitted out all the stuff inside, and they're not stripping anything back on, like a lot of wooden flooring in there. It's not been sanded back to nice. It's just had a very, very light skim off the top layer of varnish and a new level. It still looks old, but it's had a bit of a treatment to make it last for another 30 years or whatever. So yeah, it's really the exhibitions team within the museum talking to me, telling me what objects they want. I look where they are, what condition they're in, and then I'll put them in the MBCC, get them painted in, get them restored, whatever needs to happen. Lucky enough for Hangar 1, some of the objects down there are just going to be staying, and it's not too much work, we're just in a once over. But same on the volunteer team are doing a lot of work like that anyway. And again, they'll support and help me where they can. So yeah, so it's sort of me just knowing what's happening and just managing what's in front of me.
No,
And we make timelines, which is always nice.
You do things like check the tire crashes and stuff like that?
Yeah,
It must be
yeah.
quite a lot of
We
work.
have to do radiation checks. We have to do firearm checks. We've been speaking recently. We used to do 3 monthly checks on all the aeroplanes and an annual. That was the 2 sort of inspections they would get a year. Because they've spoken about taking the 3 monthly out to 6 monthly, and we're going to monitor that for a few years on most of the aeroplanes. It's like when we do the annual one. So if you've got a Spitfire, what we come up with, because they're indoors and they're not really deteriorating, not really talking as here now about the ones outside. So take the Spitfire, at the annual servicing, what we will do, we'll do the port side. So we'll have a good look all over the aeroplane, we'll take some panels off on the port side, maybe the engine cannons off on the port side. If there's no deterioration on, it's probably the same the other side, so let's not waste time and take the ones off the other side. Then the next year, we'll do the starboard side. But if when we're doing the first inspection on the port side, we're going to find some corrosion somewhere, we're going to look on the starboard side. So it's sort of clever management and knowing exhibits. What I've got with the volunteers, I've got one team that look after the top 2 hangars, got one team that look after the floor up here and the external, got a team that look after down here and a team that do hangar 1. They know their objects better than me. They're talking to me all the time when they've got problems. A dink we just found in the airplane, I might say it might be there for ages, they'll say, no, we know these objects. So, I've got the teams that do all the work, they know their objects and they come talk to me and we just prioritise where we need to. We just had some damage on the York out here. We went outside and the red gents having a look at it in a minute and we decide next week, are we going to repair it? Yay, nay, we don't know yet, depends what the damage is. It might be something we just monitor and and repair in the future.
I suppose you just try to document now what's gone on.
We've seen the reports I get, the reports that get sent in, yeah.
What's happened in the past, you don't know what's been done on the air.
No, and that's another good point to take into consideration for like suspending. If I was given 2 Spitfires, you can suspend one of them, I would look at the history. If one of them spent 30 years as a gate guardian at Cosford, sat out in all the elements, and the other one's been inside in a box all the time, I know which one I want to suspend. So, I'm looking at that, the history of objects before I put them up there. So hopefully when you walk under them, they are safe, or as safe as I can guarantee them.
Will you document what you've done on them now?
Yeah, it's all been documented. They send those reports. We have one of the volunteers who runs the documentation side for us, and all the reports goes to him. We're doing it all digitally now. Very, very little paperwork. We still have the paperwork copies of the older stuff, so we know where the hazards are and things like that on the object. Typically, if you open up one of the logbooks, there'll be information on the radiation it's in, any asbestos we found, so they know what areas that there is asbestos and to be wary of. It's all been encapsulated and safe. So a lot of information, but I say a lot of it now is digital. Thank you.
Is there any aircraft that are guaranteed to be kept because they're unique, or like say 10, 20 years time for the younger generation, is there a list of, if you had to shut it down or save money, is there certain items that have to be kept across everything?
Hopefully that will never get to that situation, but I suppose if we had to, it's almost like what the General asked me about the question about the test fight collection. I suppose we're an RAF museum, it's a very loose connection to the RAF, but we know they're important airframes, so rather than just give them away or put them over in our storage hangar, we're working hard now to get them out to other museums to get them on public display. And that's what we would probably end up doing. What I showed you with Hangar 1, there's a Comet in there, there's a Varsity in there. I've got to get these out on loan somewhere. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with the curators of trying to get people to take these objects off us on loan and things like that. So as for a list, hopefully as a national museum we'd never have to get to that stage, but it'd be a difficult one to make.
Do you expect them all to be here in 20 years' time?
Everything in here, yes. Anything with the roof over it said. Nothing. A little bit on the ground. On the we're going to be having a look at the Mosquito. Wooden aeroplane being inside, drying out a little bit. The wood's quite dry and delamination starting. But the metal aeroplanes, no real problems. The vehicles getting some good servicings as well. So external. It's something we've spoken about recently that we ought to have a plan for external aeroplanes because there comes that point where you just cannot win. Day one you can't win, but there comes a point where you've spent so much money and it will just take up all our time, everybody we've got, just to keep it on display, where the museum has to say enough's enough and we will not touch it. And then there will be destruction. I hate to use the word destruction plan, but that's really what it would be, is taking her off display because she's not physically safe. The only way to take them outside is put a roof over them.
But that's quite unique. Would you try and get that inside?
What's that one, sorry?
The Nimrod, say.
Oh, I would, do you know, as I said, at my pet hate at the beginning, you know, putting airplanes outside, build the hangar down there, put it in, absolutely, yeah, she'll survive. So yeah, it's one of those calls. Does our management team say we don't want her VC-10 or Nimrod, which are iconic aeroplanes in the Air Force, spent a huge time in the Air Force. We don't want them because they're going to be outside. They have to make that decision, and they've decided to take them on, and we have to live with the fact that they're going to deteriorate, and we don't have buildings to put them in. Yeah, if I won the lottery now, I'd love to build a building down there, just to put those iconic aeroplanes inside it. So I know they'll be here in 30, 50 years' time. Outside, I can't guarantee that.
Is there not a case of recovering some of the hangars from the RAF establishments that are closing and move them here? I mean, you know, they move aircraft, so why don't you move some hangars?
Yeah, well, interesting, that has happened down at our London site. The World War I hangar, the grey and white factory, was 200 yards away, and that got moved brick by brick onto the site, part of the museum collection. If you go to London, that's my favourite hangar, without a doubt. I don't think we have the space here to put like that. If they were going to put a building down there, I think it would be a modern day building. They would have to our development team would have to start doing lottery grants and all those sort of things to get money in to build a building for us.
Is there no sort of future sort of plan that Cosford as an RAF station may close, and therefore you may have that asset?
There was that happening 10 years ago, Adam?
20.
Yeah, there was.
20.
They were going to move Cosford to Stafford, and I suppose us at the museum, when they give me it, yeah, because there's all those lovely hangars along the front that potentially we could have come our way, but obviously that didn't happen. We have to work. We lease this land off the MOD. We desperately tried to get hangar 15, which is the one on that sharp corner. We're always asking, can we have that? Can we build a building here? Can we borrow hangar 2 off you? Things like that. But no, they have the training requirement, and unfortunately, the answer is always no.
Any more questions?
I just wondered, Darren, the Dornier, there's going to be something left to exhibit, is there?
If we're very careful when we tow around, Ken, yes. Hopefully it might surprise you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what we have found with the Dorian when you come out to sea, obviously there was the battle damage and from a crash landing and things like that. But what we found now, we've taken off all the marine deposit, the stuff, crap that was on it when you come out of the water. We're finding bullet holes and things like that in the stretchers. And we're looking at sort of putting rods through them so people can see where the Defiant came in and had to shot her up. The reports all come in said she was shot down by Defiant. Yes, there's bullet holes, you've been shot down. What's not in the report, any of the reports that we've seen, in the Bombay roof, there's loads of square holes like that. That's shrapnel damage. So she's been hit. She was hit by ground fire first, taken out by an anti-aircraft fire, probably giving it chug across the English Channel. Then the Defiant saw and come in, finished her off, put her down. Yeah. That's my interpretation. Because the evidence is there, there's shrapnel, and you're not going to be firing up into the air anti-aircraft fires when you've got your Hurricanes, Defiants and Spitfires attacking German airplanes, so you're going to take your own out. So it must have happened as they first came in, one got hit. A1 position.
Wow.
Cool. Right.
Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Do you think there could be any constant speed units in storage?
For
Well, just about all the RAF for a start.
I'm not
See,
sure.
the constant speed unit doesn't fall in the category of airframe, engine or propeller. It's the controller unit interlinks the propeller with the engine.
Yes, so typically if it was on, let's say, a Merlin or Griffin engine, it would still be on and fitted.
Yes, I
it
wondered
would
if
come
you
as
had
part.
any isolation. You see, that they have an aircraft museum, has it got one?
Okay.
And that was a key component that they had to provide for the Battle of Britain.
Yeah. I'm sure that if they wanted one and we had one, Mr. Thirst would have probably asked the question. I don't know if you know of Ian Thirst. He
Well,
used to
I've been in
work at
touch with them. They haven't got one on display,
Mhm.
and I'll express my disappointment with this.
Yeah, if we have one in our collection, I dare say, like loaning an aeroplane, museum will be more than happy to loan it out to them. As I say, Ian Thirst, who is one of the volunteers down there, used to be our head of collections. He retired a few years back. He's Mr. Mosquito Man.
Well, I think we've missed a trick in that case.
Yeah. That was suggesting we don't have any on the shelf up at Stafford. That was suggesting. Yeah, they would all
I
be
did
fitted.
write to your London place, and I never got a reply.
Okay. Don't know if I've got a card because I can take a question and answer it for you. What you can do, you're happy to go online. You can go online. There is loan requests. You can do all loan requests are done through the internet, so you can go online and
Well, I
request.
think that's how I did it, through to...
Okay. Right. Have a chat with me in a minute. I'll take some details and see if I can look into it for you. Yeah.
Darren, it feels very apt to me that my last action as the chair of this branch is to thank one of our own for a fantastic lecture. So thank you. It's been a perfect evening. And given you stepped in at the last minute again, it's been, and you and I have talked about the museum for years. I've known you for a very long time now. And for actually for me tonight to see a lot of stuff that goes on in the background, as well as the time I came and had coffees and whatever over in the museum there, it's been a fantastic lecture. And I'm sure everyone else here would agree with that. As always, I've made so many notes furiously in the handwriting that none of you know I can never read anyway, so I don't even know why I've done it. I should have been a doctor in a different profession. But Darren, what a lovely flow to your talk. I can see why you're on great demand to go out and do the circuit. So your background it was interesting to me on so many levels, you know, even showing us the pictures of weather impact and stress cracking elements and the work you've done. Was it Nottingham University? Did the metallurgy assessment?
Yeah.
Even down to, and forgive me, I can't remember the name, one of your team who've got a background in Irish linen. I had no idea the level of expertise. I appreciate your team were expert, but no idea the level of skill they've got. So thank you for sharing that with us all tonight. And then you went on to talk about some of the activities you're involved in, and you know, we talked before, I knew about the sort of the Spitfire sort of doing the tour of the east or whatever else, but not to the extent, and certainly great to see in places like Kuwait and Ambassador's Garden and all the other good stuff. And where do we go from there? You talked about some of the ongoing projects you've done. You know, fascinated to see the was it a £500 bond that you've done with your apprentice, and the sort of way you'd gone about that, you know, by working from photographs, some drawings, and trying to replicate it. What a fantastic skill set, ladies and gents. And what a true show of the skills we've got in the West Midlands in engineering and aerospace in particular. It's still there, it's still alive, we should all be proud of that. And you know, great to see the Wellington. I've not been up there, I will come down over the summer, whether or not I can get my two daughters to come along. I suspect it'll be a solo trip, but there we go. And then obviously to the excitement to the future and seeing what the new look for Hangar 1's going to be. It looks like a fantastic time for the museum, and far from standing still, it's embracing the future, you know, with yourself at the helm of the Conservation Centre. I said to you before as well though, when you do retire, give me a shout, alright? I'm going to throw my job application. And the final comment I'll make is there an upper age limit for apprentices? I'm guessing 50-year-old is probably too much. Probably
As long as we can draw out the levy pot, we don't mind what age.
So, ladies and gents, I've got a few comments I'd like to make afterwards, but if you'd like to join in saying thank you for Darren for the super. So before I hand over to Chris to do the last parish notices of the season, I'd just like to follow on with a couple of things as well, if you'll give me a couple of moments of your time. First of all, some thanks, and another cheerio actually to a very good friend of mine, sat down here on the front row. As I said, and I think I shared a couple of meetings ago when I came down, I've stepped down as chair. This is my last thing to do. I've got other stuff in life. I've got 2 young daughters and a single dad, all the other good stuff. So time for me to move on. I'll come along to lectures when I can. It'd be great to see you all. But I've been the chair for 10 years, and it's been a fantastic 10 years, part of the branch for 12, I think it was. I was a 30-year-old something. I'm now, bold, grey-bearded, middle-aged man. I don't know where that came from, but what I'd like to do is, and I can't do a lecture without taking my glasses off, what I'd like to say though is on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank all of you for your support over my time as a chair. It's so fantastic to see that we've got pretty much one of the healthiest branches in the country. Some fantastic activity and support, so thank you as branch members and friends for coming along. It's been appreciated for the entire time I'm here. But the one thing I'd like to say is thank you on your behalf to your committee, who I have stood in awe, and every year I write my report, and every year I'm in awe of the energy and the effort they've put in. Whether or not it's Graham and his fantastic work over the years with STEM and the work he's done through his roles on the committee. Tony, who puts up with my piss-taking every month when we come to the highlight of my month, which is his financial report, and the fact that we even dare to let an accountant on the committee blows my mind. And Tony, I wish you every success with your car collection and the drops in our graphs that happen every time you buy something. You know, I'd like to say thank you to John for your sterling work as the membership member, and you know, keeping us on the straight and narrow when we talk and engage with Hamilton Place and offer some very firm feedback to a lot of the stuff we've done to piss us off over the years. Thank you. Ken, the lectures programme over, the visits programme over the last few years, 4 or 5 years you've been doing it now?
Sorry?
How long have you been doing the visits? About 4 or 5 years now, is it? Something like that?
At least that, yeah.
Mate, it's been fantastic. The stuff you come up with, ideas. Thank you so much on behalf of everyone here for you all doing that. You know, it's fantastic. Such energy driving that forward. Darren, mate, the lecture series goes from strength to strength. You know, and the reason we've got so many people here is obviously hear me talk every month, but more importantly, it's about the work you do for us, and those last minute movements as well. So, Darren, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, where would any of us be without you here steering us up and leading us? Yes, I might have been the chair, but mate, we all know you're the brains behind the organisation. Thank you for your friendship and your guidance and mentorship over the years. The branch is in fine fettle now, as it always has been, and we look to the future in our robust ways as you drive us forward. And take us to those new places we're going to be. Mate, thank you so much for everything you've done over the years I've been here. And that leaves me with 2 more things I'd like to say. The first thing I want to do, if Chris would like to stand up. Those of you who don't know Chris works at Moog, he's one of the engineering managers there, and Chris will be taking over, effectively now as the chair of the branch. Chris, I wish you success. I hope the team look after you as they have done me. And just welcome to the team, welcome to the branch. Thank you. So thank you very much. So everyone, this is Chris. Please come along and say hello and give him the support you've given me over the last 10 years. It's been fantastic. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So, the last thing I'd like to do is probably the most important thing of the evening. I've got a little something here for. I'd like to say cheerio to someone I've come to look on very fondly. He's not here tonight, but Jim is. Jim, you've also stepped down this season, and the last few months I've missed your banter and friendship as well. The work you do with the museum over the years is sterling, and thank you for sharing around the Nimrod. But on behalf of this branch, quietly and calmly in the background, getting on with the STEM activity you've delivered in our time together, the times we stood in this hangar, again, me and all coming along as I do, the smiley chair, oh, it's all fantastic, look at me. But you sit there and you've put together so many STEM events, and it's not just about the events, it's the impact on the children. So you personally, the impact on hundreds of children in the West Midlands, because the work you've quietly got in the background, mate, is just amazing. And I thank you for that, the impact you've had on our region, not just our branch. I did try to, I looked back through some old notes to try and find out how long you've been in the branch, and I couldn't find that out. I guess if I sat here tonight, I thought, actually, if I had a run for out in the place, I probably could find out when you joined. But I do know Trenchard was still a young man. I also know that you went to school with Albert Strawford, wasn't it? Our first chairman back in the day, and you were sort of, you carried his back through, an experienced member of the branch at the time. But I'd just like to say on behalf of all of us, Jim, thank you for all you've given us over the years, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure today. I've just got you just a little something to say thank you very much. frame, yes. Right, I'm going to stop waffling now. Thank you all. I'm going to hand over to Chris to do parish notices. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. It is up there. Well done. Thank you ever so much. We are many times blessed, ladies and gents. In Darren, in particular, very active committee member, runs this wonderful facility, and through his expertise, we also get the 24-25 lecture programme which he takes on. So I'll run very quickly through next year's attractions, some of which you've heard before, others with last minute changes are slightly different. All of this information you will be able to find on the Aero Society website. So that's the place to go if you want absolute final details. September, half blue, half green, a military pilot who has flown pretty well every aircraft in service. Rotary, jet, bomber, the lot. Should be a very interesting talk. Rod Dean, a history of Sydney Cam and his monoplane and his monoplane piston fighters. Nearly an embarrassing mistake. November is now Bill's wartime story.
Pulled out.
They've pulled it. Oh, they've pulled it out again. Right. See, this is the kind of thing he has to deal with. You get, what was it? 10 days notice of the fact that tonight wasn't coming? Monday. Oh, 4 days notice. Yes. The Secret War and the Lysander, one of my favourite aeroplanes. In December, January, it says here, is not yet finalised, but I don't believe that.
No, it's not.
It isn't. Okay, thank you.
They're just not answering emails at the moment.
Right. February is changing an aircraft. Weapons system as delivered needs an awful lot of reconfiguration to make it absolutely fit for what job it's being given. The March is JD North. The April one, I think, should be absolutely fascinating. You must all remember the films taken from the tail of a Panavia Tornado when it was doing the first trials of the ground following radar going up a famous Scottish glen. This talk is not about the aircraft, it's about the various impacts that the flying of these aircraft have had on the Highland Glen that they use for practice. Should be really interesting. In May we have our own John Thatcher coming to do the second part of space travel, and we finish the season, where are we? June, July?
Still June 3rd.
Oh, that's right. We hope to have Avro Heritage in June to finish the season. One thing we are going to try to do, if I can apply more pressure to our committee over the summer holiday, is to expose to you our growth and development plan for the branch at probably first meeting in September. Ken, in the meantime, has been organising all manner of pleasures, visits and other bits and pieces. In July, there is a visit to the Houghton Park Hangars and the Avro Heritage Museum at Woodford. There is 2 seats left.
There's 2 now.
2 seats
spaces
left.
Yeah.
On a coach from Stourbridge. Ken's down in the front row. If you want to take up those 2 seats, then come and see him immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
In November, there's a trip organised to the Trenchard Museum and RAF Horton, Buckinghamshire, and RAF High Wycombe. I don't know what there is to see at High Wycombe.
No, it's in fact it's near to Halton. The two are quite close together.
Right,
So
okay.
it's not really in High Wycombe at all. It's
Oh, that's all part of the advert, all part of the address. I
Yeah,
apologise,
right.
I thought that you were going to RAF Horton to see the trench yard and High Wycombe to see something else, but I don't know what else there
Yeah.
is there.
Well,
the ground.
it's outside of High Wycombe itself.
It's the
Right,
bomber. It's the bomber Harris. It's the bomber Harris room, isn't it,
Bomber
Ken?
Harris, as you
Yeah.
recommended.
That's it, yeah.
Tony, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I remember about High Wycombe was a couple of years ago, was an over-officious woman who was trying to get money out of us for going to somewhere else, and it was a lot of money. So we had an interesting argument on the phone. Right, I think that's it, ladies and gents.
Thank you.
Safe journey home, enjoy your summer, and we very much look forward to seeing you in September.
Great stuff.